Hello and welcome to my first video on Arc Raiders. In today's video we'll be covering the loot layout of the new map Stella Montis, so without further ado, let's get right into it with a little presentation about the map. Now the three areas that I'm going to focus on primarily in this loot guide are the medical research area, the assembly area, specifically the upper part of it, and the lobby itself. Now, when we talk about the cultural archives in the atrium, I really just don't see a point in kind of visiting those, and we'll talk about that in a second. But without further ado, our first point of interest, of course, is going to be the medical research facility, which I would consider as the best area. Now, why would I consider this the best area? Well, simply because it has the highest concentration of both medical resources and technological resources, both of which will be blues and purples, which is obviously from just a pure farming perspective and kind of just a standpoint of making money, is probably what we're going to be looking for the most. This clip that I have right here is a clip that I was somehow able to get, in which I literally spawned right next to the medical field, and I am able to fill up my bag within 90 seconds, full of blues and purples. Now, when we talk about danger level, because for the simple fact that sometimes loot runs aren't always the safest option, this place is probably going to be the most contested. I know in this game, solo has a really weird tendency to either be super hectic or super calm. So if you do manage to get here second or third even, there is a ton of rooms that might not have been checked by other players, and I think it is worth checking pretty much every room, as there is a high likelihood that you can either find some of the purple items, which are related to the quest, or just some really good blue items that sell into other things. Now, I will go on a limb here and say that this place can be patrolled by multiple shredders, as with most of this map. So, as always, kind of be on your guard as far as how you're actually approaching this area. I do think this small area, though it doesn't have a ton of actual lootable things, there's probably about 25 to 30 things you can loot in this area as far as actual places and sort of containers. I do think it has the highest probability to spawn the purples, as you can see from my inventory, and that is literally just me spawning here and kind of checking it in 90 seconds. Now, when we actually talk about the biggest zone, though, we had talked about how the medical research facility was kind of small. I do think the lobby is probably the best area to go second, or probably one that you're going to want to prioritize second. Specifically, this little security door that you have to breach, which most of you that have probably already done the quest that's behind this door know that this is a quest area. But if you can make it to the security kind of little section or area, I guess you could call it a checkpoint, there's a ton of boxes, there's tons of computers, and there's tons of other things like that. Kind of lockers, things that we're looking for that can have that high tier loot spawn. Now, this area isn't as contested as the medical research facility, but I will admit, because it is so big, there's a really high likelihood that you're probably going to run into somebody, because this whole lobby area is probably about 3 times the size of the medical research facility as a whole. And I really do think that while this area might not have the highest likelihood of purples, I do think there's a ton of good blues you can spawn in here. And really, you can kind of carve this whole area out as you see fit. This is probably always going to be my second highest priority when I'm looting on this map, besides the one we're going to talk about next, which I think is about tied with it, if not maybe a little bit behind, because it's a little bit smaller. But I do think the entire lobby area is probably the best general place you can go. Specifically, this little security checkpoint, as it does have a ton of boxes and other things you can find that are kind of, shielded away from people, and so you don't have to worry about getting third-partied when you're out in the open. Now, the third area we want to talk about, of course, is the upper assembly. This, more than anything, is an area I feel like I always spawn in. I don't really ever find myself directly going up here, but much like the medical research part of the map, this place has a ton of resources that are both blues and purples, and honestly, a lot of these containers have a really high likelihood to have purples, just like you saw right there. This is one of the areas, in my opinion, that I think is the best as far as something that people kind of run past as soon as they spawn in, because a lot of the quests in this area really aren't focused on this specific area of the map. I do think if you kind of spawn in maybe 5-10 minutes late, it might be worth checking, because this thing has a ton of mechanical spawns, and mechanical spawns, more than anything, are really what's going to help you push towards building up your, not only your actual refineries and stuff like that in your base, but they usually build or can be recycled into things that are most useful. I haven't really had too many PvP encounters in this area, honestly, and the robots that you have to worry about are just the turrets and the roly-polies that explode. I haven't really seen a shredder here. I'm sure someone's going to prove me wrong in the comments section, because, I mean, apparently these shredders spawn everywhere. But overall, I think this area is probably one that is probably the sneakiest play that you're going to do, because there's just junk everywhere. And if you're specifically looking for mechanical aspects of the kind of things that you need, I do think this area is pretty solid. Now, we're kind of done talking about this area, but I want to give a little forewarning into the next area. I am not a person who likes the cultural kind of area of the world because it's really only old war things, and you're about to find out why. There's death over there. Don't go that way. So yeah, that's the cultural area. Not really my cup of tea, and I really don't see a point wasting any of your time there. But hey, you do you. Now we're going to talk about the second layer, which is the second floor of the whole kind of establishment. The things honestly we're going to focus on today is mainly the lobby and the loading bay itself. I don't think the sandbox has anything particularly amazing, and the seed vault is good if you want to farm seeds, but I mean, other than that, I think you're going to mostly want to stick to the top floor. But there's two areas that I want to show you down here that are good just in case. So when you're actually in the loading bay, once you make it to the loading bay and see the terrifying bastion that's kind of sitting in the middle, you're going to want to go to this sort of office that's located in the middle of this kind of section. It'll be on the left or right side, depending on which side you spawn on. But the reason I want to kind of point this out is that this room has a ton of not only drawers and things like that, but it really just has, like I said, a pretty good high chance of loot spawning. And I mean, I haven't really found anything amazing in here, but this is just a place that I think people neglect when they just run down here because you're running away from the bastion most of the time. And there's a ton of drawers and other things like that that I think have pretty good spawns. And this map is really good with kind of compacting all these things together. I mean, I find there's a purple right there, but just kind of using this area as more than anything like, oh, I'm about to extract because there is an extract at the both ends of the loading bay area. Like, hey, I'm going to check this before I go because people don't check it because, what do you know, Bastion's just going to tear you up if you kind of stick around this area for too long. There is also a back room you can go in with, say, a few of the lockers, which is something I always like to prioritize when I'm running my loot runs. So, honestly, that's pretty much all I have for that. And the last one that I want to talk about, which is about to pop in a second, is one that I think is kind of low-key hidden and something that I was kind of surprised to find in general, because it really is just a random office kind of to the south of the lobby itself. Now, this little office is really good in my opinion for the sole reason that it has like 15 drawers in it. Now, drawers have the tendency to spawn pretty decent luck or pretty decent junk in general. It can be kind of random sometimes, and though it does feel like this room is very random in the stuff it spawns, it does have a ton of drawers and other things you can loot. Notice how I'm not touching any of this stuff because my backpack is full, but I do think this spot is worth kind of mentioning just as something that really, if you're down here and you kind of end up in this little corner, to check it just in case. Just make sure you're not getting third party like this guy being all sketchy and not talking to me. But like I said, it really is just a place where you're going to find a bunch of random stuff. There's a ton of drawers. There's some random junk just put all over the place. And I do think that a lot of people are kind of missing out on this little area just because it's kind of not named and it's kind of out of the way. It's kind of just randomly here in the bottom floor. And honestly, that is pretty much all I have for today. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I'm just kind of giving y'all some of the best spots that I think are on the new map that I found so far. If you have any more spots or suggestions for places for other people, make sure to comment them down below. My favorite spot, of course, is going to be the medical place, but I do think the upper assembly is a sneaky good place to loot as well. But as always, I hope y'all have a good rest of your day, a good rest of your month, and a good rest of your year. I hope y'all are enjoying the new map. I'm really liking it. And yeah, don't get bullied by shredders, as they are a huge pain in the butt. Love y'all. Mean it. Bye.